Dude, how's it going, man?
You know what? I'm good, man. I'm feeling. It's so good to be back in a studio environment.
Human contact.
Yeah, totally, 100% face to face. And it's not that you don't look good on the Skype sort of podcast stuff, but it's nice. And hi viewers, look at us.
Yeah,
you?
dude.
How you doing, man?
I'm chilled, man. It's cool to, I think people underestimate the power of social interaction.
Yeah.
So, yeah, dude, it's cool to be here in person and hear you all loud and clear, not have to rely on like internet, like bugginess and stuff. So,
Yeah, and like I was saying, there are the odd moments where you talk, I talk, and I at least lose the audio. I'm glad it still comes through and records, but I lose it, and I sit there going, wonder what he's saying. Please catch up. Sometimes I've noticed on some of the clips, editing it, you were talking or you might have commented on a specific thing, and I didn't quite catch that comment. And I kind of revert back to what we were talking about, even though you made a funny side thing. And I just would go, yeah, and I'd carry on. And meanwhile, I have no idea what you said.
ooh. It's lame.
It is a bit lame, but you know what? At least we keeping busy and keeping content out there. And I hope everyone kind of appreciates the content and what we're doing. That's the most important thing, I guess.
Yeah, definitely, dude.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you want to... Are we skipping our intro?
The intro! Play the intro! Right. I don't know if I did that right.
It was a bit quick, but
Oh,
we'll
well.
live.
It's my first fade in, fade out. I'm still getting used to it.
You actually nailed the right one. That's amazing.
That's the only one I took in besides the intro.
Nice, dude. So what's happening in the comic world?
Dude, sadly, a lot's happened in the comic world. For me, I think one of the big ones is it's just all over social media of late for the last week or so. And again, maybe sadly is not the right word. DC has announced that they are breaking ties and distribution channels with Diamond Distribution. I have mixed thoughts on it. I don't know if the timing is necessarily the best, given the recent COVID changed the world, what's been happening, and comic shops haven't been trading for 2 to 3 months at least. And to announce that, as I think worldwide there's been a little bit of a relax in terms of the restrictions, and then for DC to come out and drop that bombshell, I don't know if it was the right time and the way they did it. I don't know if I agree about it, because it something like that you would expect a lead in, a ramp up, certainly an announcement to Diamond, then Diamond give them some months to disseminate that message to comic shops around the world. Guys, DC have decided to part ways with us, and you've got a 2 to 3 month ramp up or lead in, so they could also on the other side get those comic shops time to get in touch with DC and whoever their chosen new distributors are. And there's a whole interesting thing around that too. They've chosen 2 very popular online comic stores, and I know the one in particular, like My Comic Shop. Apparently, they've been given the go-ahead to be one of DC's main distributors.
And the other's Midtown, is it not?
Yeah, Midtown Comics. So I'm going, how? And then the flip side of the coin is you get guys like Mile High Comics they've had long-standing relationships with Diamond, and they're the ones that are like most vocal, throwing their arms up, saying this is outrageous, it's going to kill things. And I kind of get it in a way, but also part of me sits and goes, is there some sour grapes there? Because of their strong ties and relationships with Diamond, apparently Chuck, who owns Midtown, is personal friends with, I forget the guy's name now who owns Diamond Select. It will probably come to me. But long-standing friends, and I wonder if there's a bit of sour grapes. You could admit Mile High has a huge online ordering comic presence as well, and now that Midtown and my comic shop are going to be these distributors for DC. There could be this whole sour grapes. Not only are they probably going to keep their online comic presence going, but at the same time be the distributor. So it's almost like some of their direct competition has to bite the bullet and give them money as distributors for the DC stuff they want, while these guys are still selling it online.
Yeah, dude. You know what the thing is? At first, I didn't look into it, and it just seemed like other news to me. And then I decided to read one or two articles because it's relevant.
Yeah.
And I had two conflicting thoughts after reading the article. First, I'm like, why is everyone sort of making a big deal out of it? Competition's good, and I didn't really think it through. And then I kind of read an article or two, and like you said, maybe timing could have been better. And I think there's a few problems. Apparently, DC have just made this call and they're being very quiet. So no, they're not giving anyone statements or reasons.
Yeah.
So when that happens, people start making assumptions. For all we know, DC could be really struggling because of lockdown and they had to make this call. Who knows,
I think there is some credence to that. I do believe that nothing flowing out to people's hands. I wouldn't be surprised if they had a printed stockpile sitting there in DC warehouses or at printers, and DC going, this stuff needs to leave the damn printers, needs to go to a distribution place and out. Possible.
But then I had another thought after reading an article or two that kind of shifted my thought. And I'm not siding with anyone, but at the end of the day, the problem is the people that get hurt are the local comic book shops. Because if you think about it, I didn't even think about this because generally my thought is, someone having a monopoly isn't always the best thing. But Diamond running all or most of the distribution made it convenient for comic shops because they had a Diamond account, they'd order all their stock and they'd be done. Sure. Now, if you think about it, they've got to order all their Marvel stock and they've got to order all their DC stock. And this is more freight charges, more shipping charges, more.
Sure.
And the only people that get hurt are the comic shops. And what they're going to do is they're going to up their prices to compensate for that. So it hurts us.
Yes. Look, yes and no. So, in a competitive world, a competitive market, who's to say that these guys won't put things in to make their shipping, freight, everything a bit cheaper? I say that, there's only so far that they can go in terms of that. Internationally, it causes a big thing because guys are having to potentially pay double import duties on certain things. I know here in this country in particular, printed material like that, magazines and that kind of media content, we do pay a bit of a import tax premium on. So now, like you say, X is going to come through Diamond, guys will pay, they'll have to clear customs, etc. And now Y, the DC stuff, is going to come through as well. And again, clear customs, etc., etc. Exactly on what you're saying as well. Diamond had a model, and it was probably a flawed model, and it probably did need re-looking. And I think now that DC has split away, Diamond probably will re-look how they do things. But they had that serious rebating, discounting kind of thing, i.e. the more you buy and order from us, the more discount you'll get. And I think it goes anything up to 50% discount, maybe even higher in some things. So the whole idea was your total order, what does that come to? Great. If you're in this threshold, 50% off, and a lot of retailers depend on that discount so that they can go, cool, I can mark this at X and still make some decent money for myself.
Yeah, you see, these are the things and I actually wanted to ask your opinion on that because you have physically worked at a comic book shop. So, I mean, a lot of guys don't know these things.
Yeah, so the problem then comes in now, if DC, for most comic shops, the bulk of their order, I'd say, maybe now it's a bit different with the rise of Dark Horse Image and stuff, but when I was there, I'd say 70 to 80% of our order consisted of DC and Marvel.
Yeah.
Be it singular comics, be it action figures in that sort of wheelhouse, graphic novels, all of that stuff was what made up a lot of our order, 70 to 80%. So if you split that half, 35 on the one side, 35 on the other side, now suddenly 35% of your overall order is no longer there. That's a big chunk.
Yeah.
So, the way it stands currently in my mind, I go, shit, okay, if I was a retailer and 35% of what my order comprised of no longer was there, allowing me to get to that 50% discount from Diamond, how do I supplement that? That means I have to order more Marvel, more Image, more everything else in order to get up to that thing, which in some ways isn't a bad thing. More Image, more Dark Horse, more of these other things to fulfill the order to get there, I think is great, because in my humble opinion, the last couple of years, Image and Dark Horse and all these independent guys have been running circles around Marvel and DC.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned that also just bang for your buck.
Correct. And on the bang for your buck thing, my concern now is, will that get impeded or will that get affected? Because the guys, the comic shop retailers locally might have to go, well, I just didn't get the same discount. Let me just a little bit more, increase the pricing a little bit more, which for me says Marvel comics are going to become more expensive. Image and Dark Horse are going to become more expensive because the discounting isn't there like it used to be. So there is that concern. Like I was saying, on the other side, it might force Diamond to go, shit, let's rethink this model over here. Let's rethink how we're discounting so that we can still get the 50% discount to the retailer. And the only way that's going to happen is if the DC distribution side has a pretty good kick-ass model in place to kind of say to the guys, well, from the start, you guys will get 50% from us. It forces Diamond to go, geez, okay, we now need, if they're getting their 50% irrespective on the one side, we need to make a plan so that they can get it on our side too and remain competitive. Or else the natural recourse would be a retailer would go, I'd order more DC stuff if I'm getting 50%. Yeah. It's just human nature.
And DC have the titles to do it, though, on that flip side. So
and they are doing it a lot in terms of the back catalogue of TPs, omnibuses and stuff that they're releasing. I'm seeing a lot of, and I stand to be corrected here, but I'm seeing a lot of Marvel does it. It runs for a bit, and then Marvel kind of, they can it. Something comes out, maybe because of the price point or whatever, people aren't snapping up past things, collected editions, essentials, whatever you want to call them. And then Marvel goes, okay, fine, well, no longer printing that, no longer printing that. Or, wait, let's stop that run and we'll redo it in this run, or whatever the case might be. DC tend to keep some of these things in print for longer. So you have more access to that back catalogue of stuff, a bit more than Marvel.
What interests me, dude, and it's just literally, I just thought of it now. Often in life, business, or whatever, there's a possibility of there's a better model out there, but the model that works now works. So don't break the tractor. Don't repair the tractor that's not broken. Sort of that. And what interests me, dude, and I'm actually interested to know if Diamond are thinking about this and have plans. And to me, it's the difference between a great company and a kind of an okay company is. You get some companies that milk it, but they run it till they run it into the ground. And you have other companies that gradually start, they evolve with times. Sure. And you'll see why I'm bringing that up now. And to me, I'm actually surprised that the digital disruption hasn't happened faster in comics. Yeah. I'm actually quite surprised. So to me, it's just a weird move, man, for DC to do this now, because it feels like in the bigger picture, the time to full digital runs on comics is actually so close. So why change a model and maybe the model's more broken than we know.
Sure.
We've heard mixed stories about Diamond, but for the most part it works. We get our comics, and people are buying them. But so it just interests me that why DC chose to do this now and not just stick it out for that much longer, make a deal work, versus another thing is I'm interested to know if Diamond is printing, as hard as they can for as long as they can, and when they bust, they go bust, or if they're starting to figure out a way to evolve with times.
Look, what I've heard is, through various mixed sources, that suspicion that Diamond is kind of running like right on the knife's edge in terms of liquid capital, profitability, etc. And a lot of guys are going that this move is potentially going to kill Diamond. And then the speculation from myself included is that Marvel tried this back in the 90s as well. They tried to go their own distribution way, especially when they were in trouble. So Marvel, it was literally a case of I don't think they could pay certain distribution accounts, etc. They tried to create their own distribution network. It was a nightmare because they didn't even pick one. They had multiple different distributors for different sections of the world. It was just a nightmare for people to get their comics and then try and reconcile. It failed horribly. So a lot of the talk in the industry is DC going to go the same way, trying their own thing, or they're going to fail? And like what you're saying,
back, yeah.
the tractor's not broken, why try repair it? That's coming out. But going back to what you were referring to, I do believe that Diamond, especially now, lockdown, COVID, I think they took a big knock. I think there was a lot of guys not paying accounts.
I actually wanted to bring that up because I think that's a big part of why some big companies are failing. Everyone's like, oh, look, they mismanaged that. And we know of, and I won't mention names, but I mean, we know of like even one shop, that like...
Major retailer.
Yeah. And besides them, but going back to more comics where we know that they're not getting comics because they haven't settled their Diamond account,
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's lots of comic book shops out there that have already been struggling pre-lockdown, and now this is final nail. And Diamond's been burdening all that debt and going, they'll turn it around, or maybe they've made small payments, and now they've got all this debt. I don't know. I don't know if they do, but I'm sure that contributed to the already struggling model,
Yeah, totally, 100%. So I don't know. And again, going back to what we were saying, how I started the conversation, I just don't know if the timing was necessarily the right timing from a DC side. I think more information needed to be distributed on the decision. I think they needed to prep shops, distributors, because my other concern is these guys were traditionally just online trading, online shops, Midtown, etc. So do they necessarily have the logistics in place to become a distributor now? I question that. So I just think more time was needed across the board to prep everyone for this, to keep comic shops worldwide in the know, updated, give them time to set accounts with these people, all of that. Because, I mean, again, the other side of that is, I think, once you became established with Diamond, you got payment terms with them, certain line of credit, etc. Now, a new distribution model on there, they're probably going to be cash up front.
Yeah, you don't have a reputation, you don't have an account, don't have...
Correct. So
And it feels... I know I'm making this up, this is totally... But it just feels like a very Warner Brothers thing to do, like they've done with the movies.
Yeah,
Like, no, this is our fucking new decision, deal with it.
And dude, a lot of people are going, they're surprised Marvel and the Disney engine didn't try this. Fuck it, let's just keep all the money in-house.
Yeah.
Our own distribution, our own this, our own that. But it's exactly on that. And a lot of the whole speculation has been around, I think it was AT&T who recently bought Time Warner.
It's possible.
And it was for billions and billions, the entire thing. And they're going, they suspect that lockdown has exacerbated this, but they expect that someone's come in, they've bought a massive conglomerate, and they're going, well, this thing now needs to make money for us, i.e., let's look at each of the sections of this business and see who's spinning cash and who's not. So first big thing, Warner probably isn't spinning the type of cash that it should be because lockdown prevented movies and series and everything from being filmed and shot. So you had that whole engine that stagnated, and they just looked at the offshoot of that and went, okay, DC Comics, why isn't this thing generating and moving and all of that? Oh, okay, fine. I do think a lot of it...
It's sad, dude, because I know this is a bit of a change of topic, but I'm actually interested for you to watch the documentary one day. But it's a documentary that 30 Seconds to Mars created, and it's basically on the music industry in a nutshell. And how screwed it is, yeah. But what the similarities I'm seeing is that time and time again, these big businesses come buy over record labels, and they bought over Virgin Records, and it was this well-known entrepreneur that flipped things and everything, and he said, he basically came with this really arrogant attitude, and he's like, music industry, I'm going to show you, I'm going to run this record label. And he left there in fucking pieces, dude.
Yeah.
It wrecked him and his whole reputation. And it's just like, there are businesses that are very different, especially the creative ones.
Yeah.
And now what's sad about what you're saying is I feel like DC/Warner are starting to get to a good place with their films.
I think
They're playing the long game, which is what they should have done. And the long game always benefits and yields better results long term, but you don't immediately maybe make money. But look at Joker. They took their time. It was small, and it freaking broke records, And
dude, you mentioned it, I think, in one of our earlier podcasts. You said that probably the biggest blessing for the Joker movie was that they kind of just left it in this corner. Like, do what you want, do it how you want, and the net result was an amazing film. And now, sadly, it's going to be a victim of its own success, potentially, because, we need a sequel, and now the studio is going to get involved, and this producer will be on board, and that producer, and Michael Bay might be on this, so I need more explosions and more this.
Yeah, actually, that's something I want to talk to you about, but I don't know if it would be like a whole podcast on its own. But what's interesting is in news that the more, with the release of the Snyder Cut and stuff, what's coming out more and more and more is, I don't know the hierarchy of positions in DC Warner, but I don't know if you know, at a stage, Geoff Johns took over.
Yeah.
And apparently more and more people are coming out and saying he was the biggest meddler of all and actually wrecked things.
I could believe it, dude.
It's so hard to believe because he's such a good comic book writer. So it's almost like you don't want to believe it. You're like, why? No.
Well, the reason why I say I can believe it, and it hit home for me, we had a chat the other night about what we recently found and started reading, and I mentioned that I'd started reading the Geoff Johns Justice League that came from the New 52. And the one thing that was immediately apparent to me was I read through that quite quickly, and I'm probably going to have to reread it because I found myself kind of skimming through because I felt I know the story already because I'd seen it in the animated Justice League that came after Flashpoint. And it hit home for me because I literally looked through and went, okay, fine, so there was the Flashpoint paradox. Ooh, guess what? That was a Geoff Johns thing. Okay, so that became an animated movie. Cool, next. Following that was this Justice League. And geez, I know the story because it was a Geoff Johns Justice League story. If I look at the next animated that came out, it was Throne of Atlantis. Guess what? That was a Geoff Johns Justice League story. And then even the Dark Side War Justice League. It was just, it's almost like I felt that particular era of the animated, as good as it was, as amazing as it was, and it wasn't all Geoff Johns because all the Justice League Dark stuff was in there. There were a couple Batman stories that Johns wasn't messing with, but the big major events, when I look at it, these were direct pulls from Geoff Johns's Justice League's Flash, whatever he was in and involved with at the time. So that nice, they were good, entertaining, but the other side of me after you've just raised this point goes, how much of that was a little bit of hubris and vanity? Like, I have the keys to the kingdom now, so I'm going to push this mandate. I think my stories are amazing, so let's make sure that these things get into not only the animated, but into the main.
Yeah, because it's interesting. What's coming out now is, Justice League. I mean, we both like Justice League. I'm talking about the live action film now, but there is all that. Snyder left. His daughter sadly committed suicide, and also they started pushing a new agenda. And apparently, there was all Geoff Johns bringing on Whedon.
Could believe that.
And apparently, he was like a buddy of his, and he's like, "Yeah, the Avengers dude will fix this." And now it's all backfiring, dude, because now there's all these subsequent things that have started happening. Release the Snyder Cut, which is happening now.
Totally.
That Suicide Squad says he's got a cut, and apparently Geoff Johns meddled with that too, and that was part of. I think it was the Warner execs and Geoff Johns, but apparently Geoff Johns is now not in that position anymore.
He's moved laterally to. I think they've almost given him his own little comic-y type arm of DC to create projects and get creative.
Which is weird, man, because you think you'd give something like him, give him the Green Lantern series, like TV series or movie, and he by himself, and he'd probably nail it and bring on all the people he wanted to. But
well, dude, to his credit, the only reason I became a Green Lantern fan was because of Geoff Johns' Rebirth, which got me into the Green Lantern universe. And sheesh, everything up to, for me, Blackest Night was just next level amazing. I mean, Brightest Day was pretty cool, but it didn't hit me as much as Blackest Night did. And then there were a few things that came afterwards. So I agree with you totally. If they said to Johns, go make the Green Lantern awesome with the TV show and whatever, I think it would be next level.
Yeah, it's interesting. I actually just thought about it now, dude. This comic that I got rid of ages ago, and I literally owned it for the cover. I'd never read Blackest Night, but it's this cover of Wonder Woman grappling a zombie over her.
Right.
And it's still one of my favorite covers. And it's one of those like stupid moments where I sold it. And I'm like, nah, I've been kicking myself. It's not an expensive comic, so I'll get it again.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll dig through the back issue box.
So, if you liked what Mark and I were talking about here, or just like our content in general,
Please like, subscribe, and hit the bell notification for more videos.
and yeah, do us a favor and find us on the social media platforms like Facebook and Instagram.
See you in the next video.